And we are live, ladies and gentlemen. We are live. Who knows if anyone will be able to find us tonight? Oh, ladies and gentlemen, do you know that Mr. Mark Zuckerbuck, and myself and my brother, Mr. Will Hunter, we are all alumni of a prep school, Phillips Exeter Academy, that prides itself on the idea of working for the greater good, not working solely for one's own benefit. But Mr. Mark Zuckerbuck apparently feels somewhat differently than my brother and I may about what constitutes working for the greater good of others. Mark Zuckerbuck does not want, ladies and gentlemen, people to go anywhere except to faceplant for anything. And so he has now instituted some policy that does not allow live streams easily from StreamYard, which is the entity that, the really trouble-free entity through which we broadcast these, or narrowcast, or whatever it is. But anyway, Mark Zuckerbuck is going out of his way to make things difficult for those of us who use StreamYard. And I'm hopeful that by next week we may have a little bit better solution. But as it is right now, I have instructed people to go over to the Roots, Rails, and Rambles page. For some reason, it is allowing this to be narrowcast over there. It also, of course, will always be visible over on YouTube. But I realize you may be trying to watch this and not being able to watch this. So my prattling on is not doing a lick of good. It says 3 people are watching. I have no idea who those 3 people are. I'm looking at the comments. I can't see the comments, ladies and gentlemen. It's a terrible thing, but we must soldier on. Now, also today, Mark Zuckerbuck was refusing to allow us to create a beneficiary for tonight's reading. And when I kept clicking on the thing that was supposed to call up the nonprofits to link to the fundraiser, said I was doing it too quickly, and so he was blocking me. Mark Zuckerbuck. Our beneficiary was going to be Planned Parenthood because, well, women's rights of self-determination are a bit under fire these days. And this story tonight is a gentle early mid-20th century satire about men's attitude toward women and ways that women cope without had coped at that era without getting in trouble. Say, Paul Gustafson says, is that dog here or there? That dog is it's over in the next yard, Paul Gustafson. What I have here is a cat just out of view, who I am scritching right here. So not a dog, cat. But the dog is coming, the noise of the dog is coming from here. Anyway, so by next week, we hope to have the fight with Faceplant worked out. And at that time, we will have Planned Parenthood be the beneficiary. So save up your dollars. Only a few people were able to get through and contribute via my PayPal. Oh, all these terms, ladies and gentlemen. PayPal, Faceplant. Anyway, we have to thank out there in Omaha, Nebraska, Mr. John T. Wilhelm. In Saxons River, Vermont, just recently returned from Norway and Sweden and all over with Roots, Rails, and Rambles. And she's a wonderful, wonderful human being, very generous, both in her personal behavior and in helping us do things here in town. Our good friend, Miss Martha Rowley, and out there in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Even though right now he is on an airplane from, I think it's Orlando, Florida, coming back to Pittsburgh, but he's on his way, ladies and gentlemen. He's on his way. And even though he is very, very tall, the airplane is even higher. My very, very, very tall cousin, Mr. Nat Hunter, and his wonderful wife, Elise. Thank you all. Oh, Charbonneau has now gone to sleep directly on top of everything that I am trying to reference tonight. Wake up, Sharps. I got to get the book. Okay. Oh, it was apparently a very tiring day out there in the yard, Charbot. Anyway, tonight, part 1 of Mystery Yarn. Mystery Yarn by Mr. Robert McCloskey from Homer Price. One fall afternoon, Homer was whistling a little tune and raking up leaves from Uncle Ulysses' front yard and trying to decide whether to ask for his pay in cash or in donuts from Uncle Ulysses' lunchroom. He had just finished raking the leaves into a neat pile at the curb and was about to go find a match. Yes, because, ladies and gentlemen, this was still the era when people used to light leaves on fire. Remember? Back in the days when before Mother Nature was on the run, when Mother Nature was still ascendant. He was about to go find a match when the sheriff turned the corner in his car. "Hi, Sheriff. Do you have a match?" shouted Homer. "Sure thing," said the sheriff as his car jerked to a stop. "That's a right smart pile of leaves you got there. Burning leaves sure smell nice, don't they?" And he struck a match on his seat and he lit the pile. "Yep, Sheriff, and burning leaves always makes me think of football and school," said Homer. "And the county fair," added the sheriff. "That'll be along in a couple of weeks. I'm going to exhibit my chickens again this year. My white leghorns took a blue ribbon last fall." "Well, I'll be seeing you, Homer," added the sheriff. Then he flicked a bit of ash off his sleeve, because he had his best Sunday suit on, climbed into his car, and he drove to the end of the block. Homer watched while the sheriff got out of his car, straightened his tie, and started up Miss Terwilliger's front steps. Miss Terwilliger, as anyone from Centerburg can tell you, is one of the town's best known and best loved citizens. She runs knitting classes, and in years past has taught almost every woman in Centerburg how to knit. She is as familiar a sight on Sundays, holidays, and at social functions, dressed in a robin's egg blue dress, which she knit years ago when she first started her knitting classes. Oh, I see Martha Rowley is trying to message me on Facebook. Hang on. What, Martha? Oh, what is she saying? Is there a reading tonight? Have I been bounced off Facebook? Oh, gosh. I got to type in here. Go to Roots, Rails, and Rambles Facebook page. I'm there. Sorry for the interruption, ladies and gentlemen. I'm back. Okay. Let's see. All right. She is a familiar sight on Sundays, holidays, and at social functions, dressed in her robin's egg blue dress which she had knit years ago when she first started her knitting classes. In fact, Sundays and holidays do not seem complete without Miss Terwilliger in her robin's egg blue dress. You might think that a dress so old would look worn and out of style, but not Miss Terwilliger's. After church or after a party, she changes to a house dress of simple cotton print and carefully hangs her favorite blue knit in a closet to save it for the next occasion. The matter of style does not bother Miss Terwilliger. If short skirts are the latest thing, she merely unravels a few inches from the bottom, and the dress looks like the latest thing. Of course, Miss Terwilliger saves the robin's egg blue yarn that she removes, for, as she has so often remarked, longer skirts will be in style again in a year or two, and then I'll have the right yarn to knit a few inches back onto the bottom of the skirt. Miss Terwilliger is a very, very clever woman, and besides being an accomplished knitter, she is a wonderful cook. Her fried chicken is famous for miles around Centerburg. It is only natural for such a woman to have many admirers, and two special ones: the sheriff and Homer's uncle, Telemachus. As long as Homer could remember, the sheriff had gone every Thursday, and Uncle Telemachus had gone every Sunday to call on Miss Terwilliger and have a chicken dinner. And it was no secret that both the sheriff and Uncle Telemachus wanted to marry Miss Terwilliger. She liked them both, but somehow she just could not seem to make up her mind. Homer remembered that he had another job that afternoon, so he poked the fire some more and make it burn faster. When the fire was out, Homer put away the rake and hurried off to Uncle Telemachus's home. Homer's Uncle Telly lived all by himself in a trim little house near the railroad. Homer's mother always said, "It's a shame that Uncle Telly had to live alone, because he would make an ideal husband for some fine woman like Miss T." Aunt Aggie would always answer, "But I don't know how any fine woman would put up with his carryings on." By carryings on, Aunt Aggie meant Uncle Telly's hobby of collecting string. Yes, Uncle Telemachus was a string saver, and he had saved string for years and years. He had quite a lot of it. Too. And every Thursday afternoon, he'd take all of the pieces of string that he had collected during the week and wind them on the huge ball out in his garage. That was one of Homer's jobs on Thursdays, helping Uncle Telly wind string, because Uncle Telly had had a bit of rheumatism of late. You see, the ball of string was getting too large to wind without a lot of stooping and reaching. And here's a picture, ladies and gentlemen. Here's a picture. Look at the size of that ball of string. That is no piker of a ball of string, ladies and gentlemen. Uncle Telly greeted Homer at the door. "Hello, Homer. We've got a lot to wind today." "Oh, that's good, Uncle Telly. I brought a few pieces from home, too." They went out to the garage, and as Uncle Telly looked at his ball of string, he said with pride, "Another quarter inch and it'll be 6 feet across. The biggest ball of string in the world." "I don't know, Uncle Telly," said Homer. Freddie has been helping the sheriff wind his string down at the jail, and he says the sheriff's ball of string is just about 6 feet across, too. Huh. I've heard tell the sheriff winds his string loose so that the ball looks bigger. Mine is wound tight, said Uncle Tully, poking the ball, and it's a lot longer than the sheriff's ball of string will ever be. Yeah, I guess you're right, said Homer, and he began winding the string while Uncle Tully tied the pieces together in double knots. Wind it tight, reminded Uncle Tully. Don't let it, don't you let anybody say that my string isn't wound tight. I'll have none of this loose, sloppy sheriff kind of winding on my ball of string. Well, just as Homer and Uncle Tully were about finished, there was a knock on the garage door, and when Uncle Tully opened the door, there stood the sheriff and Judge Shank. Well, good day, Telemachus, said the judge. Howdy, Tully, said the sheriff, trying to peer over Uncle Tully's shoulder and see the ball of string. Howdy, Judge, said Uncle Tully, scowling at the sheriff. He said, I didn't expect you'd be calling on me on a Thursday. Telemachus, said the judge. I just happened to stop in the knitting shop to drive my wife home when I met the sheriff. And as you know, Telemachus, it is necessary to cut down expenses at the fair this year, and we cannot afford to have the trotting races that we have always had. The sheriff, who, like myself, is on the fair board, and who, like yourself, is a string saber, has suggested that he and you, Telemachus, enter into an event that could be held on the racetrack and provide the diversion that the trotting races have. Yep, interrupted the sheriff. I challenge you to unroll your string around the racetrack just to prove once and for all that I've got more string than you have. Yes, to put it bluntly, that is the situation, Telemachus. I appeal to your sense of county pride. Do not spurn this offer. And then, of course, the winner will receive a prize. I'll do it, by Zeus, said Uncle Telemachus. We'll see who's got the most string, Sheriff. Your ball might be just as big as mine, but it ain't wound tight. And to prove his point, Uncle Tully gave his ball a kick, and he almost lost his balance. Very well, gentlemen, said the judge. I shall wait a minute, Judge, interrupted Uncle Tully. I mean, I'll do it on one condition. Uncle Tully was noted for driving a hard bargain, and Homer wondered just what it would be. If I win this here contest, the sheriff has to promise to spend his Thursday afternoons out of town and give Miss Terwilliger a chance to make up her mind to marry me. Well, said the sheriff, in that case, if I win, you'll have to leave town on Sundays and give Miss Terwilliger a chance to make up her mind to marry me. Well, that's a deal, said Uncle Tully. He and the sheriff shook hands for the first time in years, just to clinch the bargain, of course. Very well, gentlemen, crooned the judge. I shall judge this contest, and at our earliest convenience, we will draw up a set of rules pertaining. Good day, Telemachus. Goodbye, Tully, said the sheriff. Sorry I can't stay, but I got an appointment. Uncle Tully slammed the door on the sheriff, and he went back to tying knots. We'll see, he said, and he pulled the next knot so hard that he broke the string. Golly, Uncle Tully, said Homer, that's going to be a swell contest. I hope you win the prize. Huh. Prize or no prize, we'll see who's got the most, said Uncle Tully, and Mr. Villager will get the chance to make up her mind. That woman certainly can cook. He sighed with a dreamy look. Then he busied himself with his knots, and he said, "Now mind you, Homer, you wind that tight." In the Friday night edition of the Centerburg Bugle, Homer read a long article on the county fair and a special announcement about the contest to determine the world's champion string saver, and then the rules that Judge Shank had drawn up. Each contestant may appoint an assistant to help with the maneuvering of his ball of string. The balls of string shall be unwound, i.e., rolled around the county fair racetrack in a counterclockwise direction, starting from the judge's booth in front of the main grandstand. The ball of string reaching around the racetrack the greatest number of times shall be regarded as the winning string, and that string's owner shall be declared winner of the prize and the title of World Champion String Saver. The string shall be unwound for 2 hours every afternoon of the week of the fair, starting at 2 o'clock. I think Martha is messaging me yet again. Hang on, ladies and gentlemen. Hang on. Oh, she's not anywhere that you're finding this. Oh, Martha. Oh, Martha. Oh, so sad. Anybody who knows Martha, message her and tell her where to find us. Okay. Homer read the rules and noticed that nothing was mentioned about the gentleman's agreement between the sheriff and Uncle Telemachus. But that sort of news travels fast in a town the size of Centerburg, and it was not long before practically everybody knew that the winner was supposed to have the hand of Mr. Villager in marriage. Homer decided to go past Uncle Tully's house and see what he thought about the rules. Homer could not help wondering what a woman who could cook fried chicken so well and who was as clever as Mr. Villager would do if she heard about the agreement. Homer found Uncle Tully trying to figure out how many miles of string were wound on his ball. He was multiplying 3.1416 by the diameter, and after multiplying by several figures, he asked Homer how many feet there were in a mile. 5,280, said Homer. Then Uncle Tully multiplied by 4. Then he turned to Homer and said, "I figure there's enough string to go around that racetrack 100 times. Yep, 25 miles of string. Just let the sheriff beat that if he can." Look, Uncle Tully, here comes the judge and the sheriff again. And look who is with them. Mr. Villager. Uncle Tully opened the door before the judge had a chance to knock, and the judge puffed in, followed by the sheriff and Mr. Villager. Good day. Telemachus, we have a new contestant for the title of World Champion String Saver, puffed the judge. Mr. Villager blushed and giggled, while Uncle Tully backed around to the other side of the room and raised his eyebrows at the sheriff in a way that asked, "Did you tell her about the agreement?" The sheriff shrugged his shoulders and wiggled his mustache that showed that he was just as puzzled as Uncle Tully. Mr. Villager, if she did know about the agreement, was not admitting it. "Isn't it wonderful," she said to Uncle Telemachus and to the sheriff, "that we have so much in common?" "Yes," she smiled. "I've been saving string for the past 15 For the past 15 years, all of the colored yarn and the odds and ends from knitting classes. I have a beautiful ball of yarn, all colors of the rainbow. Splendid, said the judge, rubbing his hands together. Simply splendid, Mr. Williger. But, Judge, interrupted Uncle Tully anxiously, do you think, said the sheriff, nudging the judge and winking frantically, that a woman should enter into a thing of this sort? A thing of this sort? Splendid, splendid, continued the judge, ignoring those interruptions. The American female is beginning to find her rightful place in the business and public life of this nation. The sheriff and Telemachus and I deeply appreciate your public spirit, Mr. Williger, and I am sure that the county fair will be an unprecedented success. Come, Judge, said Mr. Williger with a smile. I must get back to my knitting shop. Goodbye, Sheriff. Goodbye, Telemachus. I'll see you on Sunday. After the judge and Mr. Williger were gone, the sheriff and Uncle Tully each accused the other of telling about the agreement. They finally calmed down and decided that the judge had double-crossed them with his fancy speech about women's rights. But Uncle Tully, said Homer, there couldn't be 3 balls of string in the world as large as yours and the sheriff's. You're wrong, son, said the sheriff with a sigh. Her ball of string is bigger than mine. She's a clever woman, son, a very clever woman. If she wins, said Uncle Tully gloomily, we'll be right back where we started from, waiting forever for her to make up her mind. That's where we're stopping for tonight, ladies and gentlemen. That's where we're stopping for tonight. It's just getting good. This is possibly the best of the Homer Price stories, but they're all so darn good. Anyway, we hope you'll be back next week. Hopefully all our technical difficulties will be resolved by that time. Join us then, if you will, for another Benchley McCloskey night. You take good care. Excuse me, Sharbo. I gotta stop this now. See you next week, everybody. Bye-bye.